This is Don't Fear Grit with Rob Taormina. Marketing strategies and advertising technologies to help you build a better business.
Hey guys, and welcome back to everyone's favorite show on all of the interweb, Don't Fear Grit. I'm your host, Rob Taormina. I am pumped to be back with a brand new season and to help kick things off. We've got everyone's favorite producer. You guys know him from really being from behind the scenes all of these years. Now he's in Florida and we are remoting him in. Let's all welcome back to the stage, C-Reg. What is up, my friends?
Rob, I'm surprised to see you. I actually thought I was doing a Zoom interview for a job at Walmart.
Oh, that's a little awkward now, isn't it?
Was not expecting you.
Well, listen, it is good to hear your voice. It's also good to see you, my friend. Now, before we kick things off, let's everyone know, because regardless of when everyone's going to be watching or hearing this, Craig, we're recording this during the storm. I'm up in New York. There's no storm here. Craig is in Florida. Literally, I think the heart of the storm is going right through Florida right now. So is everything okay?
Sure.
Are you safe?
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, so I'm okay right now. But
okay,
might get some drops and signals here.
All right. Well, listen, if we lose you, I think everyone's going to be, devastated, but hopefully, and look at that. We just lost, we just lost Craig, but you know what? Listen, the show must go on. Hopefully he signs back in, and I believe he is. And this is how we're going to roll, people. This is how we're going to roll. Watch this. There he goes. And now he's back.
Just as I say, drops and signals.
just as you say. So listen, if we do drop signal, Craig, I promise, is going to try his best to get back on. And but anyway, we've got a great show. We're going to be talking about some things that, yes, Craig and I talk about privately a lot. And Craig is actually, he's a big fan. Therefore, he's also a big expert. But I know this is actually mass market topics right here. And so we're going to get right back into this. And we've got a new show format that we're going to be previewing. So for the like the YouTube and the video audience, you're going to be able to see it. For the people who are just listening in, we'll definitely give you those cues. But what we're going to do is we're going to have this countdown timer. We got 2 minutes per topic. And we've got a few really cool topics for everyone. So let's reset this timer here. So it's really, really cool. Here we go. Let's get back into our topics. And so the topics that we're going to be discussing today, there's going to be a theme to these topics, but I think it's things either that people like are pretty aggressively and passionately debating right now, or if like I don't want to give away all the topics like right away, but like if these things, happen or you're experiencing things regarding some of these topics in the moments, I know that for a fact people are thinking about it. So we're going to get right into it. And the first topic really reveals the theme. And that's Disney. What is going on with Disney? Everyone's favorite Mickey Mouse. And is definitely evolved over the years, Craig. So being that you're in Florida, you're a neighbor of Mickey Mouse. I want to know your opinion, and we're going to start this countdown timer. We've got 2 minutes to talk about Disney. What's going on with Disney? Good, bad. Yeah, speed run, exactly. Good, bad, and the ugly. What's going on with Disney, in your opinion?
Well, let's see if my brain can catch up with my mouth. Okay, so Disney. As you know, I've been a lifelong Disney fan, Disney stan, if you will. I got to be honest, though, Rob. Currently, I'm not too happy with Disney. I'm losing a little bit of faith in Disney.
Okay. And that's saying a lot because you're a big Disney fan.
Yeah, as a general company, I'm specifically my department in the movies. I'm not really happy with how they've been handling their properties, and I think with the emergence of Disney Plus, which maybe we'll get into a little bit later in terms of streaming, they have been pushing, and not just for Disney Plus, they've been doing this for a couple of years. It seems quantity over quality, and I think you're really seeing a lot of the projects, like something like Marvel, for example, that I never thought was going to be such a mixed bag in this current, phase. But it seems like Disney is kind of just more focused on the dollars and the creativity at this point. And not that they weren't always, looking out for the big bucks, but I think, certain leadership had more maybe of a focus on the creatives, and it seems to be more of a focus on just the bottom line at this point. And I think you're going to see, while things might be making money right now, long-term effect, I think you'll start to see a dip.
Yeah, I mean, Disney went on this tear buying up a ton of assets, big brands, big content assets, and everyone got really excited. But I think they have in recent years, definitely over the past year, moved away from sort of the allure that families have with Disney, and that's sort of like this sort of dream world, this fantasy world, this excitement. Where dreams are where, what is that whole line? We lost Craig. He's going to come back. Remember, guys, he is in Florida here, and I promise you we're going to get him right back. There he is. So what I was saying, a dream is a wish your heart makes. Like all of these type of like really fun fantasy things. Our time's up on this topic, but I think they've shied away from that. And I think that this recent run of purchasing incredible assets, and I think Disney will do great with them. I think, though, it has distracted them away from their original vision. Getting into the next topic, again, staying on theme, though, and this is sort of what you were saying, bored with Marvel. Is everyone bored with Marvel? Let's reset the clock here. And I'll lead this one off. I think yes. I think you went through that incredible round of movies where Marvel really reinvented themselves. I think they saved themselves, and they came up with quality movies, quality storylines that really just attracted the mass market, and we were hooked. Hence, look at Avengers Endgame breaking crazy records like crazy. We were hooked into these characters, into the storyline. Everyone loved Marvel, but something happened after Endgame, and this came with, obviously, now Disney acquires Marvel. We've got Disney Plus and streaming, which we're talking about a little bit later on. And did all of a sudden the market become too saturated with the Marvel content? My opinion is yes. I think that the market became way too saturated with. I think the market, Craig, what I was saying, I know you're coming back in here. You're in that storm, right? But I was saying, I think the market just has way too much Marvel content. And I think they put out way too many shows too quickly. I think they put out way too many movies also too quickly. And I think something, and listen, I could be wrong with this, but I think something that added to the excitement of Marvel for that 15 plus year run was the fact that, you didn't have a Marvel movie coming out every 6 months necessarily all of the time, right? We would have to wait. And I think, absence makes the heart grow fonder in the sense that, when it comes to Marvel, I think people were so excited about what's going to happen next, and now I don't hear people talking about it. You know what I mean? Like the Twitter feeds are not trending with Marvel stuff. The water cooler talk at work is not centered around Marvel like it was. And definitely, schools, kids are not talking about it as much as they were, and I think it just went through a period of time where there was way too much. Quick thoughts. I know we're running out of time on this topic, but I'll let you finish off with 10 seconds. Gad, what's your thoughts on
10 seconds? Okay.
Yes, bored with Marvel.
Listen, I agree with what you're saying. I think Disney's owned Marvel actually for a few years, for quite some time. I think it was 2012 maybe. But I think the issue here is now, the characters they've been giving me, I've been liking the characters. It's been the stories that have not been landing for me. And it's like you said, Marvel went from producing 3 movies a year to now producing 8 shows and movies every single year. COVID was a problem with certain release dates, but even now that we're out of COVID, looking into the next couple of years, 8 projects every single year. You're spreading the head of the company, Kevin Feige, too thin, and he's the visionary. And when the visionary cannot be involved in as many projects as much, you're going to get stuff that's just rushed out. And I think it's a result of, similar to what they did with Star Wars, they made Disney Plus, and they needed a quick turnaround to make money for it. And it's coming, it's gonna affect the long-term value of the brand, I think.
I agree. I don't want it to affect the long-term value. Craig makes a really good point there. I think as someone who's a Marvel fan, and even other assets, like Star Wars, like I don't want to get tired of it. I don't want to be bored of Marvel. I love Marvel, and I think the fans of like, for example, Marvel Comics and the Marvel storyline, and then over the past 15 plus years with the movie franchises, I think people love them. So I don't want to get bored of it. So I think Disney really has to get back to the drawing board as far as not necessarily just their creatives, but their strategy of distribution and release. I think that they're not doing a good job of maintaining the future fandom of Marvel. I think they're just trying to, they think strike while the iron's hot. Let's make as much money as we can now, not realizing.
And as much content for streaming is really what it is now at this point.
It is. I think that's what's governing their decisions, though. And I think that you had the Marvel franchises initially were governed not necessarily by, we got to create content to compete with the other streamers. That wasn't what was driving Marvel when they created the franchises.
They were leading it. Everyone was.
They were 100%. But now they're no longer the leaders in that space. They're trying to play, copycat. They're trying to compete with all the other streaming platforms. So they're releasing lots of content that way.
Right.
I don't know if it is Disney. It's not Marvel. That's true. Let's be clear. This is not Marvel's necessarily fault. I'm saying this is Disney's vision, and that's really the new leadership. That's the new leadership at Disney.
It was like you were saying about how they're not focusing on their core brand.
Yes.
Look at everything. What has Disney put out that's been original recently? It's all remakes of their classics.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
They have all this technology, but they haven't been innovating. They've been making remakes and remakes and remakes that aren't as good. It's Disney. They can lead again. Just make new properties. That's what they did for 50 years, however long it was. And now it just seems like they're kind of just doing whatever will give them an initial pop.
Yeah, we're going to use that to go right into our next topic here. Deadpool 3, at the time of us recording, it was just sort of released, some of the trailers for Deadpool 3. Everyone loves Deadpool, especially because of the relationship between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. They've got really funny banter over the years, and these releases of not trailers, I misspoke, but of promotional materials are so creative. I love... And that's why, it is, but it comes across as real, even though I know it's scripted. But they're so creative. Like Ryan Reynolds is, I think, a creative genius, and that's why, like when he releases this stuff, I'm like, what is this gonna look like? I'm gonna like literally focus on this. I'm gonna get my popcorn because even the promo is funny, right? So here we go. Let's launch into Deadpool 3. I'm gonna let you go first because you're the one who sent this over to me. So what do you think, Deadpool 3?
I think it's exciting. I think you're right. Ryan Reynolds, I think, is probably the best marketer of anyone. The Deadpool marketing is some of the best marketing I think I've ever seen. And this is something that, Ryan Reynolds has been teasing Hugh Jackman over the years. They've had this kind of fake internet rivalry. And he's been teasing him, even in the Deadpool movies, to appear in his movie. He's been obsessed with Wolverine.
But doesn't that also touch on what we were saying before? Like all of those little Easter eggers throughout that has we're going to focus on 10 years or 15 years. Right. Doesn't that contribute to fans getting excited or continuing their excitement? I think you just nailed it. I think that's what Disney is missing. Ryan Reynolds obviously gets it, right?
Right, and it is now owned by Disney, but this is something that was already a billion-dollar franchise before Disney got it, and they're just inheriting it, and they're inheriting, lucky for them, they're inheriting Ryan Reynolds and his creativity.
Right. We just lost Craig again. As a reminder for everyone who's watching, Craig is in Florida, and the heart of that crazy storm is going through there. So let's get him back in here. You're back again. Yeah. So go ahead. You were saying about Ryan Reynolds and Disney, and now they have access to him.
Yes, I mean, and they're making this, and I'll give kudos to Disney. They're keeping it rated R. They're staying true to what the franchise is. They're not Disneyfying it. They're not changing it, and they obviously approved on bringing in Hugh Jackman. Kevin Feige clearly had a hand in that, and it's just an exciting thing. I think the fans have wanted this forever. We all kind of thought Hugh Jackman was done because he said he was, and
many times.
It's going to be fun to see him again and see their banter on screen as their characters.
I totally agree. Next topic here is Universal versus Disney. Now I'm going to lead this one off, and I'm going to really talk about this from the perspective of the parks. Universal versus Disney. And I recently read something here. If you read it on the internet, it must be true. But in this case, it actually is true. Disney, before Universal had access to Harry Potter, Disney actually had first crack at it. And the creator of Harry Potter turned Disney down because they were not really going all in. They wanted, I think it was like the story is that they were going to create like one ride. It wasn't going to be this immersive sort of theme park experience, and she turned it down. Universal then gets access to it, and the rest is history. The Harry Potter world at Universal Studios is absolutely incredible. In fact, talk about trailblazers. They really were trailblazers in the new sort of theme park immersive experience, which forced Disney's hand, and then you see Disney creating the Star Wars world thereafter. So, I think if Disney, for example, we're talking about buying assets like Marvel and Star Wars, could you imagine if Disney was able to lock up Harry Potter as well? I mean, we're talking about maybe even putting Universal out of business. I don't know if that's really possible, but I think that really brought Universal Studios as a theme park back to life, and now this tremendous interest there, and yet put another sort of like little asterisk and into, what's Disney doing? I feel like Disney is dropping the ball with certain things, and really. Listen, I'm all about being progress, technology, moving forward. I'm okay with change. Like, I'm okay with that stuff, right? But I'm also about respecting the past, respecting what you built success on, respecting the nostalgia and how that has value and how you progress moving forward. And I feel like they've just thrown all of that stuff out the window, and they were like, we've got a new vision. It's time to move on. And I don't know that the general public is reacting positively to this.
Right.
And I know we just sort of, ended our time on Universal Studios, but quick thoughts. I'll let you close out Universal versus Disney. I know you haven't really been to Universal, but what are your thoughts there?
I've been here. Listen, it's a weird time because everything is flipped now. I've now been hearing better things about Universal than I've been hearing about.
Yeah, so we just lost Craig because he's in that storm right now. But yeah, so he was saying that he's hearing better things about Universal than Disney.
Is fun.
Yeah, so all right, continue your thought. You've been hearing better things about Universal, right? Go ahead.
I've been hearing better things about Universal than I've been hearing about Disney. From Disney, I've really been hearing they've been cheapening the experience and raising the prices, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
I have no problem with, like, if I think Walt Disney said that Disney World will never be complete, and I'm completely okay with if they got to get rid of. Listen, I love a ton of the old rides, but after a while, they got new properties. They want to bring new things in. Sure. I'm okay with that if you make it a good experience. Right. But if you're cheapening it and you're not making the rides what they can be and you're just raising the prices, that's an issue there. I think a big problem with Disney right now is, listen, whenever someone creates something, it's probably at its best when that originator is still around. Obviously, Walt Disney's not here. He's the visionary. You need someone who's a visionary to run it. Money is obviously important, but if you have someone who is only focused on the business, and with something like Disney, I don't think it's going to work because it wasn't just the money side. Walt was, I think, primarily worried about just the vision of the creativity, and you need a good balance, but you need someone who's a real visionary, I think. And that's why I think it's suffering right now. Yeah,
I will say, listen, it's not a charity, right? So it's a for-profit. So obviously, you have to be profitable, you have to make money, and it is a business. So I do think that it's okay that all decisions run through the business aspect of it, but you can still put value and develop strategy centered around sentiment and nostalgia and feeling. Actually, I know that sounds like people are going to be dismiss what I just said there, but I want you to think about that because there is a business value to those things, and I don't know that current leadership is putting enough value in those things as far as the overall plan here, and because they've lost sight of that, I think that's in why they're struggling. When you lose in the court of public opinion, it's going to affect your business, and that's what's happening right now. So
you never used a couple years ago. You never heard a word out of Disney. Now you hear them every single day.
Right.
They did this with the park. They did this with the movie. This person said this.
Yeah, they're under the microscope big time. They really are. Hopefully they get their act together. And listen, I think that the leadership cares about Disney. I think the people that are responsible for making decisions think that they're acting in the best interest of Disney today and in the future. I just think they're wrong,
Listen,
and
coming out of a pandemic, it's like I'm not going to sit there and tell someone running that type of a business what they should do because I don't know what kind of money they need to save.
Sure.
It was going to be rough because you're going to close the parks, no movies are coming out.
Yes.
But I feel like this. It kind of goes back to everything. This feeling of we got to get everything out. We got to get all these things on streaming. We got to build our numbers. it's going to hurt the business long term because you're actually lessening the value. I know you're trying to save a dollar here or there, but you're not being super creative. You're just kind of recreating stuff that'll get you money quick, and it
Yeah.
might help right now, but long term effect, you're ruining the brand, I think. So
Yeah,
it's going to affect your business in the long run.
I totally agree. So streaming services, we've mentioned it a few times now. There was first the rush to create streaming services for all of these, major networks, and then there was the rush to create content. And I had mentioned this to you years ago when there was this mad rush in the very, very beginning that there was going to be a consolidation.
Right.
And I think that that's going to definitely happen. The cream always rises to the top. So I think the best services creating the best content are definitely separating themselves from all of these other smaller networks that were like, oh, we have no choice but to get into the game. I think these smaller services are going to continue to get bought out by the bigger, programs. You're going to see a consolidation because here's another thing that not enough people are talking about. Initially, it was, cable is terrible. It's not reliable. They don't own a lot of their own content. It's too expensive, right? But now there's so many streaming services that are holding their content like for ransom. It's
Right.
more expensive to have all of these subscription services to streams, right? So you're really hurting the general consumer experience by forcing consumers to have like a dozen different streaming services. That adds up when they're between $4.99 and $9.99 per month. You're talking about it's now more expensive than the old cable days, right? And that's a big problem. And where one streaming service is not necessarily responsible for that, and where one streaming service can't be the solution, as a whole, they've got to figure this out. And I think that there's going to be a continuation of a consolidation of these services. You saw Amazon buying a lot of the studios. I think that I said this a few years ago to you. I actually think that someone's going to buy Netflix. I think you're going to see a major player buy Netflix, and then you're going to
right now.
But it's okay. They have got debt, but they've got membership, they've got subscribers, right? And they do have good content, so there's value. So I think you're going to see that. I think that the streaming needs to become a better experience for consumers because, especially now, I don't know that consumers are going to be able to afford to have 10 or 15 streaming services. It's getting ridiculous at this point.
Right.
They're really holding their content hostage. Like a good example, Apple TV obviously trying to compete. I don't see them as a big player. They are a player. They're not
New Fraggle Rock.
Right, they are a player. They're not one of the biggest players. They're trying to obviously compete with everyone. I don't think that they're going to be able to, but Apple, remember, is one of the largest companies in the world. They've got what? They've got cash.
Right.
So
I've
they're
been
going to
hearing good things about all their shows, though.
Yes, no, that's why I said their content is good, but they're currently
Right.
not a big player because of subscribers.
Right,
So, like, they just recently, held hostage some Major League Baseball games because they're trying to stream that as well. And you've got Aaron Judge in the race for breaking the American League record of 61 home runs held by Roger Maris. And all of a sudden, he's going for 61, and guess what? The only place you can watch the game is on Apple TV. I'm telling you, as far as you have to pay attention to consumers were pissed.
Right.
They were not happy that they had to, go on this crazy hunt for this game and lost viewership because people, number one, couldn't find it, and number two, they didn't want to, right? So if you go online, you read the reviews based on the experience, people are not happy at all. And closing out today's discussion, who is the new content king? I'm going to let you lead this one off.
That's a hard question. I think a lot of it is preference, to be honest, in terms of what you enjoy more, like what projects, what streaming service you enjoy more. Personally, I think in terms of content and streaming, I think Disney's always going to have a place because they have their library, which is really, that's always going to attract people to. They're never going to go out of business with that because you can go and watch, stuff from the 20s on there all the way through all the classics. I think for me personally, I think HBO's got the right idea because Warner Brothers recently bought out by Discovery. Their new, it's weird because it used to be me saying, oh, Warner Brothers needs to be more like Disney, and now I'm like, Disney needs to be more like Warner Brothers. He's been actually axing a lot of properties because he's got the belief that we want quality, not quantity, and they've been taking stuff off of HBO that hasn't been up to quality.
Right.
So in terms of who I think
That's a good point.
I think they're a really strong player, HBO. So I'm going to go with them for now.
That's an interesting pick. I did not think that you were going to say HBO. The HBO is not going to be my personal pick. I think that as far as the content king, I'm going to put it in two different categories. I know we've been, hold on, Craig is trying to come back now. I know that we've been talking negatively a lot about Disney, but I'm going to answer this question and put it in two different categories. Content is king. So one, I'll put in the category who's making the most content. I'm going to say Disney right now is probably leading the charge there, but it's only by default of them owning certain asset brands, franchises. Right. They own Marvel, they own Star Wars, right? And then obviously they've got the whole archive and catalog of other Disney, classic Disney properties, right? So I'd say as far as the quantity of content, I think Disney is leading that, right? And they're
Netflix.
You think so? So I'm going to go Disney in that category, and I think that they are really all in. They're doubling down on just creating lots of content. As far as quality of content, I'm actually gonna throw a curveball out there, and I'm gonna shock you because I don't think that they are a leader yet. But I think Amazon Prime is doing a good job of trying to create good quality shows. I really, really do, and I'm curious as what everyone who's watching or listening thinks. And I'm going to get Craig back in here right now. Craig, what do you think about Amazon Prime? So that my next pick, even though there's a great argument that Netflix is still the leader, right? I'm going to actually argue that Amazon Prime is doing a good job creating quality shows. And I see them continuing. Definitely. Yeah. They are, some people might, say it's like weird to call them an underdog because, they're a crazy big company, right? Bezos has a lot of money, right? But I think that Amazon Prime, we're going to continue to see them put out quality shows because similar to Apple, they've got deep pockets. They've got more cash flow than any of the other companies, right? So you got Apple and Amazon, crazy cash flow. So they have resources to be able to do crazy stuff. And as big as we think Disney is, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, Disney is actually smaller than Apple and Amazon. Amazon and Apple are bigger companies. So I think that, and we also know that, Netflix has a stupid amount of debt right now. So right. Where Netflix might be the leaders, and I think Disney is making the most amount of content, I actually see Amazon Prime, Amazon making the best quality shows, and I think they're going to surprise us in the coming quarters to close out the year, and then obviously to start next year.
What's interesting is that if you think about the three that we named, they might be considered smaller in Amazon, Apple TV, and HBO.
Yeah.
I think in terms of quality, listen, I'm running to HBO. I'm watching the new Game of Thrones show every single Sunday.
Yeah.
But they're not putting out a ton. Like if you think of Netflix, my thing with Netflix is that I think they put out the most content because they've just, for every one amazing show though, they have like 30 shows that I'm never going to watch. And Disney seems to be following in that path, which is bothering me. Although Andor, I don't know if you've watched Andor, is great. It's really good. But in terms of all these other streamers, if you think of Amazon, they got Lord of the Rings, which I've heard is mixed. I haven't watched it myself. But they got The Boys, which I love. I think The Boys is a great show. And it's a couple shows here and there, but everyone's raving about them. I personally prefer that over, 100 things a month and one thing maybe we'll talk about.
Right. I mean, listen, and we can end on this. You can't deny the fact also that Disney is also controlling the headlines. Now, they might be centered around a lot of bad things. We're talking about them. And, there is something to say for there's no such thing as bad press, right? And so at least they're still getting headlines. They're still out there. People are talking about them. And you know what? Because people love Marvel, they're going to watch the Marvel shows. People love Star Wars, they're going to watch the Star Wars shows, right? What we're talking about here is how does that affect long term? Does that hurt or help the brand. Personally, I think there is something to say and argue for oversaturation. You can put too much out, and when it's not a mystery, when it's no longer exciting because it's so accessible, I don't think you're going to be able to manage the passion, that love for the brand. And I think that, personally, I think it affects it negatively long term. I'll let you have the closing remarks here on that.
I never thought that I would ever like the Disney Vault. I used to hate the Disney Vault back in the days of DVDs and Blu-rays. I couldn't get anything for 7 years. I have to run out, get it, and then you wouldn't see it again for 7 years. Mm-hmm. I think that was a pretty good model now, because it made me, you have these classics. You weren't oversaturating the market. You have these classics. You release them, then we don't see them for a while, and we want them more. Right. I have not lost faith in Disney. I think they will recover, because if you think about, I don't know exactly what year it was, maybe the 90s, the 80s, whatever it was, when they were kind of in a dark age themselves, when they were just pumping out straight to video, low quality animations.
Yes.
They overcame that. So I don't think this is the end of them by any means. And I'm frustrated because of how much I've loved this company. I'm frustrated because I've seen how great the content can be, and I think just trying to flip stuff for a quick buck isn't going to help you, and it's going to turn a lot of the fans off. I haven't lost faith, though. I think they'll get it together. Maybe that means new leadership. Maybe that just means a new direction. Maybe they're finally listening to what the fans are saying. It takes a lot of time to actually make these projects. So maybe the result of project in a couple of years will be the result of us complaining about it or saying we want this to be a little bit better now. But I haven't lost faith. It's just a little frustrating. As a fan.
No, listen. Listen, when the rubber meets the road, Disney's going to be fine, right? But I think that a couple things. If Disney's listening, right, and they're probably not, but like if anyone at Disney is listening to this, and I'm gonna give Craig an opportunity to come back, but if anyone from Disney is listening to this, hear these few things, right? I want you to hear that, number one, I need you to focus on creating a better theme park experience. And I think that it's been compromised intentionally because you thought it would improve it. It hasn't. And listen to your customers. You don't have to go very far to find customers not happy with the experience, right? And that's from the first touch point to the last touch point, And then secondly is I think Disney's got to be careful on how they are releasing their products. And I think if you put out way too much, I think it's going to really affect the consumer's passion for it, for me, I'm disappointed. I think, obviously, though, like I was saying before, I think Disney's going to be fine. Right. We can petition as much as we want for there to be a change in leadership. It's not going to happen. So this current guy who's at the helm is going to be at the helm for quite some time, and I think it's going to be his decision to leave, not the board, not the public, right? So I think that hopefully the people around him, they've baked into their plan to, let's a reevaluation. And right. maybe not to walk it back completely, but to at least reevaluate it, make some changes, because, again, I think the theme park experience needs to be a lot better, because that right. contributes to it. There was something to be said for, baseball. Major League Baseball was struggling for many, many, many years, and they needed to make the baseball game experience more appealing to families, because what creates long-term passion is families being able to bring their kids to the ballpark, hear the crack of the bat, and get all the smells from the stadium and eat that hot dog. That's what contributes to being passionate about the sport, wanting to play it and wanting to watch it, right? And for years, I remember them talking about how it was terrible. They really focused on it, changed it, and brought families back to the ballparks, which then, rekindled this love for baseball, and baseball is doing much better now. And I think that they have to value the in-park experience. I know it sounds silly, but they have to. And I think that's going to be a big thing. And that's an advantage that Disney has over everyone else here. Right? No one else has anything other than the viewer experience and maybe some retail experience. Disney has something that no one else has. They have the theme park experience that they every single day have a test to gauge what's going to work, what's not going to work, what brands are going to land, what are not going to land, what people want, don't want, right? They have that. And I feel like they just ignore it. And hopefully, they get back to it, because it has it's gotten crazy expensive. I hate to sound like an old man, right? Oh, I can't believe how expensive it is, right? But it is. It's crazy expensive. The average American cannot afford to go to Disney World anymore. And I think that right there proves that they've lost sight of what they're trying to do. If the average person can't go, that's sad. So they've got to definitely figure that out, and hopefully they do, because I'm a big fan of Disney. My wife is like crazy Disney, and so hopefully they can continue the tradition, and kids and grandkids can enjoy it just like we did.
Right. I think also in terms of I've been talking a lot about Disney. I think also us as the fans need to also take this as a lesson, because I was one of them for years saying we want more, we want more, we want more. That's just kind of what we're in this time period. Always, we want more, we want more. I want 4 Marvel movies a year. I don't want 3. I want more stuff.
Yes.
And look, and then I got it, and I'm upset about it because the quality dips. So if we're gonna, listen, people complain about everything. We always complain. I think it's different this time. There's more of a consensus amongst the people that there's something going on here with the company. But we got to be open then to when they make changes to say this is what we wanted. We can't then complain about the changes. You know what I mean? And if they course correct, you got to give them some room to course correct. Then can't be on them all the time. If you're going to say we want this change and then they start, but it's slow, then you got to deal with it.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's another really, really good point. I agree with you. And maybe that's also why they're not really paying that much attention to the general consumer opinion right now, because they're flip-flopping, right? They went from give us more to now it's too much. So so maybe they're just going to let it play out for a little bit. But and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I really do think that the in-person theme park experience, there's something there, and I think that they've messed with it way too much. And listen, not to go on too much off on too much of a tangent here, but just to give an example. Part of the Disney World experience, or depending on where you are in the entire world, the Disneyland experience, right? Especially in Disney World in Florida, though, that when you arrived in Florida, you had the Magical Express bus, and when you got on the plane to go to Disney World, your experience actually started that moment, because you put those special tags on your bags, and you didn't have to do anything because it was the Disney magic. The Disney magic is what brought your bags from the airplane to your hotel room, and you got to go on the Disney Magical Express, and you went on this bus, and they had a wonderful video and a great experience when you're riding the bus, or you're greeted in the airport with the people with the big Mickey Mouse hands. They removed all of that completely, and now that's no longer included. Right. So now you have to, make your arrangements for travel, and that's fine. You have to do that with everything else in life. Right. My argument is not that it's unfair. Right. My argument is that they removed part of that Disney magic, that Disney experience.
It feels like you're kind of just in a business then when you go to it feels like a business when you're at Disney.
Yeah. I mean, so the Disney magic element, I feel like, has dwindled, and I hate to sound like Peter Pan or something like that, right? Where you just have to believe, right? But I really think that this Disney magic that just existed, I think that it is now just a little bit of a flicker, and it's a shame, and I hope they sometimes bring it back, because, and you've heard probably me say it, you've probably said it yourself, in the one thing that Disney had as part of their brand, is such a great brand, is the whole thing Disney-fied, right? Is you pay attention to little things when you, like, whether it be walking around the theme park, and they part of the cement walkway, they put in fake fossilized things in there. It's like, it was Disneyized, right? Because Disney's attention to detail, right? And I think that's gone. And I think they're losing that brand. You don't hear kids talking about that. Oh, this is just like Disney. You don't hear parents talking about that. You hear parents talking about it's too expensive, it's not convenient anymore, and it's no longer fun. Right. And, no one's talking about the Disney magic anymore. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was making the argument for what I know a lot of people are going to push back on this statement. There is a value to certain brands and businesses to the feeling aspect. And this is what Disney for so long did such a great job at, is creating and managing and continuing the Disney magic. That's what they made their money off of, because you could put out any fluff and people were going to buy into it. Now, guess what? Because of the decisions that you made, people are focused on the problems. But when you had great Disney magic, people were distracted. They didn't even see the problem. But now you remove the magic, and all people can do is complain about the things they are not enjoying, and there's a laundry list of them, right? So
yeah, I mean, Disney was great escapism, which is what
100%,
people
100%.
Listen, the world is crazy. It can be a very dark place.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to escape that. You don't want.
That's right.
And now it kind of feels like, Magic Kingdom's like, in just outside my house. It's like just any old,
Yeah.
It's just like it turned into just like a regular boring corporation.
Yeah.
It's like it's too, I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like escapism as much anymore.
Yeah, I listen, that's actually a really good point, and we're going to end on that. Curious what everyone else's thoughts are on today's topics. Obviously, Disney was the common theme threaded throughout all of our conversations today. Craig, as always, you are a wealth of knowledge. You've got an opinion.
You're the only person who's ever said that to me.
Well, you're a wealth of. I didn't say it was important knowledge, but you're a wealth of knowledge.
That really attributed it to me.
There you go. And you've got an opinion, even though it doesn't matter. And I hopefully you continue to give everyone your opinion there. And I know everyone else watching and listening in definitely enjoyed your thoughts on sort of Disney, what's going on, and hopefully, whenever we do a follow-up to this particular show, in weeks or months, whatever, Disney has turned it around. We will see. We will see.
We will see.
We will
see.
All right, but thanks again, buddy. I really appreciate you on the show, as always. And everyone else, thanks you for tuning into Don't Fear Grit. You know the drill. Right now, before you do anything else, you got to share this with everyone. You got to definitely subscribe and follow and do all those like things that all the crazy algorithms are demanding of us so that this show gets shown to the masses. I appreciate everyone, and curious your opinions. You're always welcome to leave them in the comments. We read them all and we consider them all, and maybe we'll actually bring you on at least your opinion, and we'll have it as one of the featured topics for a future show. Thanks again. See you next time on Don't Fear Grit.